to just kind of, that scared me.
Right, good.
I just kind of stumbled into the social media piece, and over the years really got to just understand it. And it was more than just understanding it. It was something that was really personal for me, sharing that appreciation for books and stories and characters with everybody else and being able to talk about those things. And that's really the importance of social media, is that engagement piece, sharing that appreciation with other people. So we'll go ahead and get started here. The few things we'll be covering today is going to be kind of a high level review of what social media is. Let's see. We're going to talk about how to speak with pictures, which is the flat lay piece that Kay was kind of talking about, as well as other forms of media. The various social media platforms that are out there, with a deeper dive into the Instagram piece, because Instagram is where my familiarity is at. And then we'll finish up at the end with some time for questions that anybody might have. I'll share my contact information at the end of this in case somebody thinks of something later on, they want to reach out and just kind of have a longer conversation about it. More than happy to talk to anybody that wants to have a bigger discussion about it. So the first piece, state of social media. So what is social media and why is it important? Social media is one of the most important ways to connect with readers and build a community around the books you're writing, illustrations that are being made, whatever your forte is. It's a way to really communicate with people. It's not always easy, but with some basic understandings of some things, you'll have a better idea of where to spend your time and how to reach people. Something to think about. In this year, social media is expected to have about 4.89 billion users. Those are individual people that spend their time on social media. That's 6.5% over last year's users. So social media continues to grab more and more people around the world, whether it's through internet connectivity or just interest, age groups that are aging into interacting with social media. It continues to grow. On average, people spend about 2.5 hours per day looking at social media, scrolling through things, reading things, interacting with stuff. So it's at least 2.5 hours every day. Some age groups spend a lot more time. Some age groups spend a lot less time. So there are some variances there, but on average, people spend at least 2.5 hours. With that many users online, there's a lot of different platform choices for them to interact with different things on. I'm sure most people are familiar with all the basics, your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. There's also the bigger industries of YouTube and WhatsApp and all those other things. We're going to keep it focused more on what I consider our industry's most interactive platforms. We'll dive into those later. But knowing the ones that your target audience uses the most is really important, because each age range interacts more often with certain platforms than they do with others. And there's a big variety there. The most active age groups across social media are those between the ages of 19 and 29. Again, there's a variety, and we'll go through those age ranges on different platforms, but most users are between 19 and 29. Let's see. With young adults, we have noticed that the majority of them spend most of their time on TikTok and Instagram. It's just where they like to spend their time. It's quick interaction, it's fast videos, it's fun stuff. That's where they spend their time. And going back to kind of what I said earlier, knowing which platforms to be on and being prepared to engage with people is how social media can be the most effective. Engagement is the #1 piece. The other thing that's really important to know about different social media, and all of them have this factor, is the algorithms. Algorithms dominate every single social media platform, and each one has its own ups and downs. So some platforms like Facebook, their algorithms to be seen in people's feeds are heavily centered on paid advertisements. The more people spend money on running paid advertisements, the more likely people are to see somebody's page posts on Facebook pages. Instagram is one of the platforms that has the most efficient algorithms across all of the platforms. We don't know the specifics of what those algorithms are, but we do know that they take into account things like engagement, so liking people's posts, commenting on people's posts, sharing things to stories, and hashtag strategies. Hashtags are a big part of Instagram's algorithm to be seen. So as you're posting things on Instagram, but nobody is really liking your posts or commenting on things, the more engagement you have with other accounts, especially accounts that would be similar to yours or would reach the same audience, brings your stuff to the top of other people's feeds. That's how you get seen more often on Instagram. So, let's see. Next slide. We'll talk about the pictures piece. So Instagram and all of social media really is heavily centered on visuals. So understanding how to reach people with a visual is really important. I'm going to dig into that more when we get into the Instagram specific piece, but your visuals should speak immediately for you. Before anybody reads what caption is on any post or what you've had to say about this or that, the visual that you post on any of these platforms is what's going to grab somebody's attention. So what this means is assume you have about 10 seconds to capture someone's attention. What's the best way to get their attention? First of all, being aware of who the audience is. Who are you trying to reach with what you're posting? And Kay had mentioned this earlier. I have a wide range of people that follow my page, whether they're looking for kids' books, adult books, homeschool materials. It's a wide variety of people. So just knowing what that individual post, who you want that to reach, is what your picture should be saying to somebody. So if you've got a kid's book, having a kid sitting there reading the book, showing the front of the book, that's going to reach the audience that you might be trying to get a hold of. And the colors and fonts, if you're making graphics, the color schemes, the font choices, those make a really big difference in terms of what person is going to pay attention to that. So a lot of kids' books, you see bright, colorful posts, you see fun fonts, and that speaks to anybody that might be looking for something kid related. It doesn't necessarily have to speak to a kid, because in a lot of instances, it's going to be their parents or grandparents that are going to come across this, not just the end user. So keeping in mind who the audience is, having a theme that speaks to that through what's in the picture, the colors, and all of the fonts is really important in that. And then past the visual piece, you have captions that go with anything, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everything comes with a caption where you have a chance to say something. Again, keep in mind that 10-second piece, because the picture and the first 2 lines of whatever you put is all people are going to see as they're scrolling through in any of the platforms that they come across you. So the goal is to get them with the picture, have them be interested enough to look at those first 2 lines that are the first thing they're going to see. And then with captions, you can obviously, outside of Twitter, you can expand on ideas. You can write a much more lengthy piece after that, but the first sections should always be the most important part of what you want to say, because most people aren't going to go past that point, but those that you've grabbed will read the rest of whatever you've had to say. So then after that is where you put all of the other substance to that material. And the other big thing I always emphasize to people, especially with authors, is posts on any social media should not be only focused on selling something. It's really, really important to have a nice mixture of material that focuses on selling something, like, hey, I have a book that I want you to check out, but it should also focus on having a look inside to how do you write? What inspires you? Doing character interviews, kind of expanding out on your whole world of whatever the book is about, whatever the series is, or the artwork, being able to really dive into deeper material. People that will engage with you are going to want to know more information. They always want to learn more about this character or this world, this theme. That's one of my favorite things to really influence with people, is to dive deep into that world. Just because you know it really well doesn't mean that your readers are going to know it just as well. And the most important part is to be you. People are going to follow you and interact with you because they want to know more about you and your characters. It's not just this book. Hey, I have this book for sale. It's tell me more about all of it. How do you write this? Where do you write? What inspires you? What doesn't inspire you? All of those little pieces are really important to what you have to offer in any social media that you share. I'm gonna pause real quick. And so now we're going to look at the major 4 platforms that I mentioned earlier. So we have Facebook and TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. These are the major 4 that I would say most people have either used or use regularly, especially for our industry with books. These are the 4 major ones. YouTube kind of, and I didn't include it only because it's a minor piece in the literature industry. You get a lot of book trailers that people like to put out there, or story times, read-alongs, but that's not where people interact the most. So we'll start with Facebook. Facebook is the most well-known and also the most used social media that's out there. But what's important to keep in mind about Facebook is that most of those users use it for personal reasons. They use it for keeping in touch with their friends and family, catching up with cousins and people they haven't talked to in a long time. It's usually used personally. It can be really communities on Facebook with Facebook groups. There's a lot of really successful Facebook groups out there where people like to talk about this book or that book, or you have specific author reader groups where people are always waiting to see when the next release is coming out. And it's also good to have at least an author page on Facebook, whether it's only as a support mechanism for your other social medias, but it's a good place to always have your author page with a link to your website and using it as a backup. You can always post the same stuff on Facebook that gets posted anywhere else. If you don't have anything specific to put on there, users that see it in one place may not see it somewhere else. So Facebook is always a really good support mechanism. But most people don't interact too heavily with pages on Facebook. They interact with accounts and groups. TikTok is the second one I want to talk about because that is really the fastest growing social media platform. It is just like on fire. People are always trying to figure out how they can be the next viral video on TikTok because so-and-so author just made hundreds of thousands of dollars last year because of one video on TikTok. It is a video-oriented platform for those that aren't familiar. You can include short clips. It can be a little bit longer video. It does have places for captions. It's incredibly popular with younger demographics. I would recommend TikTok if you love to make videos. If you do not like to make videos, all it will do is frustrate you. It is a really hard platform for some people to get into. It's definitely not one I use a whole lot because I'm just not a fan of making videos. But it has turned into a platform for some people, like I said, to make a huge break in their careers. Then we'll talk about Twitter. Twitter is a conversational platform. You can include media, pictures, video clips, but it's really a place where people talk about things. You only have a small amount of words you can say in every post on Twitter, but it's a really active location for bloggers and authors that want to converse about this upcoming thing, or what do you think about this? It's a great conversational tool. So I always recommend utilizing it, even if it's not something you use constantly. I know Kay is on there quite a bit. But it is geared to a unique demographic of people that really like to talk about stuff. Whereas other platforms are, again, that visually driven platform. Twitter is where people talk about things. So if you like to talk about even current events, even if it's not book related, people just talk about everything on Twitter. And then Instagram. Instagram is one of the most effective social media platforms, not only for being able to reach an audience because of the algorithm piece I pointed out earlier, but also having the ability to just share the beautification of your books in a visual format. Instagram leverages photos and videos for posts, so you're not limited in the type of things you can post. We'll dive more into Instagram specifically in the next 2 slides, but there's a lot of other social media platforms out there, like I mentioned earlier, but these are the biggest ones to always keep in mind, be somewhat interactive on, but maybe finding one that suits you better than the others and spending the time really developing that. Now that we've gone through the platforms, we're going to talk about Instagram, Bookstagram specifically first. So what is Bookstagram? If you haven't heard that term, it is the most widely used hashtag on Instagram for the community of people that like to do anything related to books. It's basically the entire book community on Instagram for people to share book reviews, recommendations, anything and everything related to books. There's a little bit of everything. It's across all spectrums. Authors use it, bloggers use it, book reviewers, anything that's book related is going to have probably a Bookstagram hashtag with a whole lot of other hashtags for depending on what their focus is. So now we will dive into Instagram and how to be successful on Instagram. So Instagram is my go-to. I absolutely adore Instagram just because it allows for me to use that creative outlet of creating really pretty pictures for all the books that I love, anything book related. Visuals are the biggest part about being successful on Instagram, but it's not the only thing. You'll see on Instagram that it's not just the beautiful flat lay photos, which are basically really pretty backdrops, whether it's books and leaves and flowers, which is what I tend to use, and then highlighting a book. But it's also a lot of other things too, because I've seen plenty of really successful flat lays that are a graphic created online through a software program where it's just a book. They have the cute little arrows and the highlights of what the book includes, whether it's action and adventure, mystery. There's a lot of different ways to make successful pictures on Instagram. There's not just one way to be successful. The flat lays is what I tend to do. And again, it's books with pretty flowers and always my cup of coffee, because I always have a cup of coffee. So it doesn't require photo shoots. A lot of people imagine Instagram as being this photo shoot intensive thing that, just like with TikTok, where you've got to put all this energy into videos, people imagine Instagram as I have to spend hours every day creating really pretty pictures. I spend maybe 30 minutes to 60 minutes a week, but that's really not a lot. It's 2 photo shoots or 1 photo shoot a week. But again, graphics can be made. It does not have to be something that's a photo shoot in person, but those are really successful, especially with kids' books. I've noticed with kids' books, people like to see kids reading the books, or something fun where if it's like a, I want to say like a toy truck kind of book where it's outside in the dirt around some toy trucks, like these live action type of things with books in that setting of whatever its context is, those are going to grab people's attention. The other thing with Instagram is to mix it up with personal pictures, like I mentioned earlier, telling how your stories came to be, showing your writing space. What does your office look like? What are you currently working on? All of those little insights help to make an entire Instagram page really successful. So hashtag strategies, I mentioned this earlier. You really need to go into Instagram with a strategy about hashtags. Hashtags are those cute little pound signs that everybody's familiar with. These can be really difficult, and sometimes knowing which hashtags are the most relevant to use. The foundation of this kind of strategy is to really ask yourself these couple of questions about your books. What genre is it? You should always hashtag whatever that genre of your book is, whether it's action, adventure, mystery, whatever the genre is. What interests might someone have that would read it? Are they kind of a bookworm? Are they after school reading? Is it bedtime reading? So different activities or interests around what your book is about. And then anything else that might be related to your book. If it's a book about a foster home, including things about that, or if it's about toys, there's really no end to what kind of terms you can use as hashtags. And then after you've kind of made a list of those things, doing some searching on Instagram for those hashtags. See how often those things are being used. It helps to have a nice mix of tags that have really big usage, like Bookstagram, that have millions of tags, mixed in with medium volume, where you're talking things that have been used a few 100,000 times, and also mixed with things with smaller counts that are really specific. It may have been used 2,000 times. Having a mixture of all of those layers in your hashtags will ensure that the algorithm directs your posts to the people most relevant to all of those pieces. And that's really what matters, is getting your stuff in front of the right people. The next part about Instagram is about engagement. To have your posts seen, as we talked about with the hashtag piece, you also have to be really engaging on Instagram. So leaving comments, answering comments, finding other people's posts, liking them, saving them, commenting on them, sharing other people's posts. So doing the little arrow share and putting it in your stories, and just a one-word thing that says, this is great, or love this. All of that different level of engagement is going to grab into that algorithm as well. It's going to say, this account is really active. Here's all the hashtags they're using that reach the right people. It's a really active account, and it's going to continue to push your posts in front of the right people and keep it at the top of, when people open up their Instagram, it will be at the top of the list of things they see. Instagram runs as a full-on community. So the more you interact with stuff, the better off you're going to be. And then finally, feel bold enough to run advertisements every once in a while. If you have a brand new release, put it on a paid ad to make sure that it does get in. With paid ads, you can select the markets, the age groups, the interest levels. All of those variables can be chosen on only putting that paid advertisement in front of those specific people and paying for how many times they click on it. And advertisements can be easily set up using Facebook, because Facebook and Instagram are one and the same company, and they utilize the same advertisement creation in Facebook. So when you make a paid ad on Facebook, you can auto run it on Instagram as well and utilize the audiences from both of those to get the biggest return on that. Advertisements can be a really big mountain to climb, but there is a really good key to success in getting those advertisements in front of the right people. So utilizing those big three things, the hashtag strategies, engagement, and advertising are really the best ways when you're trying to reach people to get in front of all the right people. And that's really the coverage that I had for tonight. My contact information is on there. I'm actually just a few minutes shy, so I'm impressed on that. If anybody had further questions, you can always reach out, but I can open it up now, I think, Kay, for any questions and discussion anybody wanted to have.
Yeah, please, everyone, feel free to unmute yourselves and just ask. Or if you're more comfortable, you can put your questions in chat if you need to. Whichever.
I'll keep that up for just a minute. I forgot.
Ashley Blank Arts. Ashley Blank.
And just for those who may have joined us a little bit later, we are recording and we will do our best to get the recording available to you in a form you can access. It'll be on our Facebook membership hub. Lee is on vacation for the rest of the month, but when he gets back, it'll be on the CWILL internal area of the website. And I'll drop a link in the next internal newsletter. None of that will probably happen immediately because I'm a little bogged down at the moment, but within, say, 2 weeks or so, you should have access to that. And Ashley, I'll make sure you get a link so that if you want to use this for your own purposes, you're absolutely welcome to. Go ahead and resell it to make $1 million, whatever works for you. Follow me, right?
Yeah.
Oh, getting some questions in chat.
Oh.
Again, everyone, feel free to, you can put a hand up, you can just shout out things, whatever works for you. I think Susan has a question.
Yeah, Ashley, I just was wondering, my book, I keep calling it my COVID baby because it came out right during COVID. And you suggested having paid ad releases for a new, or paid advertising on Instagram for new releases. Is there a point where it becomes too late to do that? Or
I would say it's never too late. I have plenty of authors. So one of the other things that I do is I'm a personal assistant for a handful of authors and I run their paid advertisements. Many of them have many of them write series books. And so they always have the first in a series on a paid advertisement to get people into the entire series of a book. And then they'll add in one-offs for new releases, or this is on sale, things like that. So there's definitely never a bad time to put it on. It doesn't need to be just new releases. I would say anytime's good.
If I could speak just a little bit more to that, because everyone here has varying experiences. So for Susan, is that the blue feet, the cute little, yes, yeah. So that's a one-off picture book and it is traditionally published. So your math is a little bit different. What Ashley's talking about is authors more like me probably, who they own the rights to their own books and they can see what's selling. So they can actually see if the ads are working and they get a higher percentage of those sales, which for all of you is a little bit more challenging because you can't tell if you're moving the dial. Your books may or may not be still available in physical bookstores. So you could push to, like, say, a Amazon book page if your books are still in stock there. But if you're just doing wide advertising, you'd want to check, like, can people get your book through those venues? You might still find it worthwhile to push a post on, say, Instagram around an upcoming event, because you can region specific push a post or around a new release.
Yeah, for things like World's Oceans Day, where there's a direct connect.
Yeah. But again, your math is different. So your publisher really ought to do that because they make more of the benefit.
No, it does. A whole new ball of wax, whole new world out there, I think.
Yeah.
Promoting. Yeah.
I mean, we've actually had the session before. Who was that with? Art in Saskatchewan, or somebody help me out. What's his name? Claire knows who I'm talking about, right?
Arthur
Slade. Thank you. Arthur Slade came and spoke to us about rights reversion. So if your publisher got your book out and it's sunk and they are not paying for any advertising and not pushing it ever, and I know this is harder for picture book authors, you'd probably have to, like, team up with your illustrator or buy out the rights, but you could re-release after, after the publisher has given up on it, and then you would own that and you would be able to push it independently. But
Okay.
series helps too, as
Mhm.
Ashley said.
Oh, yeah.
I've definitely found that you can almost making your income back on one book, advertising it, is pretty unlikely.
Thanks.
Sorry to take over there.
No, that was much appreciated. Thank you. Yeah.
As a test a while ago, when I was putting out my Lorenzo book, I ran like maybe like $20 just to see,
Mhm.
and I got maybe like 3 clicks or something like that. It was like something like really low, but maybe I just had like the wrong hashtags or something because I didn't know what I was doing.
Well, and the key with advertisements, it's a little different strategy when trying to get sales from the advertisements. So there's a whole program that I went through, a training seminar on how to run successful Facebook ads. And there's an entire process. So you have to be invested in it for at least a good month of running various iterations. You have to run a lot of testing. So you run like 5 different advertisements at a time. Each one has a different photo. They all have the same caption. So first you try to identify which photo grabs the more attention. Then once you've determined at the end of, say, a week or 2 weeks, this photo got more interaction than the others, then you do the next iteration, which is 5 more with all the same photo and a variation of text. So having the price at the top, or free in Kindle Unlimited if it's an Amazon item, some kind of tagline should be different across all of them. Then you determine which content grabbed the most attention. So now you know which photo and the content. Then you do a final iteration, basically, that this is the winning way to get people. And then you invest the money in really running that advertisement and understanding which markets, which demographics grab the most attention. So there's a whole process involved in finding the most successful advertisement to grab attention, but it does work. I've run lots of ads with lots of authors, and it does work, but it does take time. There's a lot of patience involved.
Was that with Sky Warren, Ashley, that you did it?
It was, yes.
Oh yeah. I got into it just as she was shutting it down. She just ended that program as of the end of last year, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't have it open anymore, but it was a fantastic program. Learned a ton about advertisements.
Very cool. I saw Paula's question about reactivating Facebook ads. Paula, maybe remind me about that one via email if I don't get back to you in a couple of weeks, because I feel like I've seen other people asking, and I could probably look up the answer. But Ashley's comment is about right. You bug them about it. It happens every so often. Facebook have crummy support. They don't really have support, is what that comes out to. That's why I stopped doing Instagram, actually, is they kind of got after me and it became harder to use.
Yeah, I tried to reactivate it through them, and they just basically don't communicate back. So I wondered if there was any special trick to it, but I don't think there is. I've just heard that it can be very hard for individuals to advertise on Facebook. They really cater to big business. And I've had better luck through other like using Amazon directly to advertise my own books and stuff like that. Yeah.
See, I found the opposite. Amazon did not work for me selling books. Facebook actually moves the dial, but not.
No.
And trying them all out kind of will help you to determine what works and what doesn't, but it's an investment. I mean, there's a lot of money involved in spending to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure that I knew that you run ads for authors, Ashley, so I might have to send you a message about that later. I'm really busy lately. Caroline's question: any evidence that people actually buy books as a result of seeing an ad? Well, when they click on it. Have you started using Amazon attribution, Ashley, in your ads?
I've used some of it. One of my current clients, we're playing around with it right now to kind of see. We turned off all of the Facebook advertisements and we're kind of playing in the Amazon advertisement world right now, but not seeing as much effect as we had with the Facebook ads.
Mm-hmm. Amazon, for those who don't know, just rolled out something new called Amazon attribution. So if you had an account to sell your own books on Amazon and you used Amazon attribution to create a special link to your book, and then you use that link in the Facebook ad, Amazon would tell you if your ad resulted in a sale.
Yeah.
So you could tell specifically if that ad actually made you any money, which is really nice to know, because when you're advertising on Facebook, you're kind of going like, did anything happen? Did I just waste a lot of money and those sales were going to happen anyways? Yeah, it's really nice to see. Sometimes disappointing, but it's better to have the information than not.
It is very helpful, especially because if without that, it's really narrowing it down to individual sales and assuming things come from ads, using the analytics that are in the Facebook ads, but also utilizing pages read and trying to understand the return on that kind of stuff. And it can get really complicated without. I'm glad they've rolled that out, but yeah.
For those of you who aren't only selling through Amazon, which is most of you, it's a little bit different, and there's this idea of advertising as part of your larger marketing tool set. And there's this theory in advertising, like the 7 touch, where people need to encounter your work, whatever it is you're selling, about 7 times before it sticks in their brain, before they recognize it, and before they're motivated to do something about it. And so there is a theory that paying for advertising to get that visibility counter up could be worth it. However, if you look at how much money you're going to make off of a single sale and how much it's going to cost to get those 7 touches with one person, the math just might not pan out, because again, for those of you traditionally published, you're making, tens of cents to maybe up to $2 if you're really lucky, if it's, an adult hardcover, brand new. So yeah, there are very few things that are that cheap per click anymore.
And that's why I say, don't be afraid to do it. The organic method is the best way to get your books out there, is that engagement piece, is getting people to really just find you and interact with you, and not having to spend the money, because it's pennies on the dollar and it's expensive. See a hand.
Yes, Jamie.
Oh, hi. Thanks, Ashley, for this presentation. I had a question about, is there any way to sort of queue your post so you can sort of prepare posts in advance and then not have to, one of the biggest things I struggle with is time. And like, if I have an hour, it'd be great to just be able to put 6 posts together and then, that week have a time when they come out. Do you have any suggestions for tools for that?
Yeah, there's a few of them, depending on whether you're using a lot of platforms where you want to schedule stuff across 4 different platforms. Hootsuite is really the best one to manage all of them in one place, because you can build Twitter posts, you can build Facebook, Instagram, all of them can be built in there. You can copy and paste content. Go ahead.
That was called Suite, did you say?
Yeah, Suite. So Hoot,
Okay.
HOOT, and then Suite.
Oh yeah, good Vancouver company.
Yes. It's a great one. I don't use it personally, but a lot of my clients do use it because it's a great location to do all of the platforms in one spot.
Great, thank you.
Buffer is another one, Buffer, Buffer,
Yes.
like something buffering. And I believe last I checked, they did allow you to have a few more free schedules than Hootsuite's pre-plan before it jumps to a paid one. So I was using that for a while.
Great, that's helpful, thanks.
For those who don't know, Jamie does the CWILL Instagram, and we appreciate and love her very, very much. So, in fact, Jamie, connect with me later and let's see if CWILL can pay for something to make that easier for you.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is just you guys tag me on any post that you make,
Right?
so that I can get that and then I'll repost it. So yeah, all of you people that are out there that are posting, just tag CWILL and I will do my best to try to repost it.
And for those of you who have no idea what she's talking about, do that little @ sign. So hold shift and hit your 2 key for @ and that'll be different on your phone, but @ symbol CWILL, CWILL _ BC.
Yeah, and I think you can also you can click on the image and it'll say, do you want to tag someone? And then you can
do it that way too.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. So that'll put a little flag up so that Jamie knows that you're trying to pay attention, get us to pay attention. Quill's hashtag can be hashtag Quill or Quill, either one. Just put that out there. We don't formally have one, Stacy, but thanks for asking. Stacy had a question for those of you that didn't see when interacting with Instagram. Is it best to focus on teachers and librarians or their bookstagrammers, especially if we're lazy and want to narrow down the field? If you know where you're going to move the dial most, so like you're trying to get more school visits, focus on those teacher librarians, and there will be a hashtag for teacher librarians, and you can search teacher librarians and you'll come up with a whole list of accounts that have self-identified themselves right there for you.
Yep.
Yep. Another good hack is if you know of a more famous author or illustrator than you, go to their profile, go to who's following them, and then start interacting with all those people and try to lure them over to follow you. Poach them.
I guarantee you that happens to me all the time. I like somebody's post and I immediately get an email within an hour. So it says, hey, you liked my book on so-and-so's post. Would you like to read it?
Yeah, maybe don't use the auto like sales. Facebook is really pushing that, all of those like AI sales platform stuff. But yes, you can be strategic in who you try to interact with and follow and all of that. What about, Ashley, you do reviews, so maybe you could talk to us a little bit about how to not be awkward and off-putting when we reach out to reviewers or try to connect. Not to spam.
Yeah, I definitely have never had a bad experience to say what really not to do. The ones I've liked the most reach out to me directly, and it's more of a personal message that just, you know, it speaks from them as the writer, as a person, that, hey, I really would just like to see what you have to say about this. And it helps when they've gone to either my website or one of my social media accounts and they're familiar with something related to why they're reaching out to me, not just a blind reach out, but hey, I saw you liked this person's book, or I saw you like this genre of books. Mine goes right in with that. Having that personalization piece is a big part that makes me, those are the ones I respond to first. I'll go and look and then give a response of whether I'm interested or not. Sometimes it's a no, it just depends on how busy things are. And it's not I don't want to read it. It's I know I just don't have time right now. But I'm always pretty open with people in communications. But I'd say the personalized commentary that I get from people is usually the best ones. I haven't really had any bad experiences other than the ones I can tell where it's a copy paste that they've sent to 50 different people. There's no personalized name. There's nothing specific about me. They're just sending it to everybody.
I think everyone's probably taking notes. This is a evergreen question.
Children's authors that I think are doing a great job. It's a good question. I'd have to think through that one. I don't follow a specific children's author. I tend to follow a lot of the, I think they used to be called Usborne or Usborne books. Now they are called Paper Pie, but it's an organization that sells kids' books on behalf of lots and lots of authors. They just happen to have a variety of stuff that I really like to follow, but their social media is really interactive. They don't just show the books, they show how to use the books. Because a lot of their kids' books are not just bedtime reading, but there's a lot of school and education stuff. So I can't think of a specific children's author, but I do follow Usborne or Usborne, however it's pronounced. Following for hot tips. It depends on what kind of hot tips.
Yeah, sorry, I meant more like just as like good examples for us of who's doing a good job out there as far as like marketing themselves or getting like interacting and getting out there. So Yeah, not really
see.
hot tips, just like good examples.
Yeah. I would be happy to take that as a takeaway and follow back up with Kay to get you guys some of my recommendations.
Yeah, we can sort of keep an ear to the ground. You could look at Bryce Raffle, who is one of our members, Bryce, who will make you insecure because he is constantly doing signings with his writing partner. And also has control of his art. So he does a lot of posting graphics based on the art from his books. That's really great. Lee, I'm just going to start typing some of these names in chat because that'll be a little easier for everyone. If you don't know who I'm talking about, because not everyone has memorized the membership list. Bryce writes the Littlest Dinosaur books. Lee, who I think most or all of you know, is on social a ton as well. And because he teaches writing workshops the same place I do, and also like everywhere else, he's constantly in schools. If that's something you want to do more of, I would recommend looking at what he's doing, because it highlights, he's highlighting books that he's teaching from, assigning. So that's connecting with, what are other books out there, building some community around that, not just self-promotion. He does also mention his own books on occasion, probably not as much as he should. And then he's also posting from what he's doing in the workshops, which you may not have that piece, but if you want to be doing that, you can think about what would I like to bring into a school presentation if I'm going into a one-off book talk, or if you're going to do a longer collaboration. Something I've really been noticing with our members who are very successful with the schools is they often have a bit of a value add that they bring. And I know that sounds sort of corporate and markety and whatever, but teachers, schools, they're looking to kind of really get value, to know that you're going to bring something and that it's going to be worth their time and money to make it happen. So I've seen Lee, obviously, he does crafts, he does interactive storytelling, there's drawing. That's not going to work for everybody. That might not be your thing. Someone else who's really taken off in the last year, Emily Seo, she wrote The Science of Boys, was her debut it's kind of more like a teen junior YA novel. And then she also had a board book, and she's got a picture book that either just came out or is just about to. I think she's got something else in the works. So really taken off. She's in schools all the time. And there's kind of that STEM angle. There's girls, there's STEM. She's of Japanese heritage, so she's bringing some of that in. It's set locally, so she can talk about inspiration, but she actually does little like science experiments, like soap bubbles reacting to something and going up. And it's not a huge thing. Like I've been on site with her doing presentations, and it takes a few things to kind of, pour the stuff in, and then it goes up, and then at the end you have to clean it up. But it's just a small little project, and the kids go nuts for it. And the teachers are thrilled because these kids are so excited, and then they're just tossing questions at her nonstop for the rest of the time. They will not, in fact, it's mostly the same question. They just like alternate between two questions. Then another kid put their hand up and they'll ask the same one. How old were you when you published your first book? And she asked something else and they'll ask it again. Doesn't matter. These kids are having a great time. They're excited about books. There's some science. You might not have a book about science, but is there anything in your book that you can bring up? So I'll type it in, Emily Seo. And the last event I was at with her, she was talking about she was going to put some of these science experiments and make a little Instagram of doing the experiment. So whatever it is that's your thing that maybe ties into your book, whether it's inspiration. I see Kari in the middle of my screen. Kari is a author illustrator, and she has both done illustrations for and written some of her books, and then done variations thereof. And so I've seen on her Instagram, here's a photo reference of a toy or a window or a building, and then here's the illustration in the book that was inspired by it, and showing those two things. I've actually pulled that into my creative writing classes to go, here's a local author illustrator, and here's how they take real life and it inspires. And so these are things that people can catch on to that are interesting, that are ways to connect, and that maybe get you some more opportunities. So those are a few people to check out. Arthur Slade, we also mentioned earlier, his whole shtick is humor. He has a very characteristic way of going about it that will not work for everybody, but you'll have your own way of being. So don't copy, sort of find out who you are and run with that. And I would imagine Ashley might have some sort of in the YA and indie world maybe that she would think are good that she might flag a little bit later. Also, you can look at her Instagram for inspiration, and I'll try to remember to send a link around to that when I post this recording as well.
Yeah, but I'll definitely pull some ideas together, Kay, and I will send some over to you because I follow a lot of stuff out there.
Yes, you definitely do. You're on there way more than I am. Very cool. Any more questions for Ashley? Shall we let the poor woman go back to sleep?
Oh, I still got a while before sleep.
Oh, really? What time zone are you in?
Oh, it's almost 9 here, but we don't get everybody
Okay.
in bed till 10:30 or so because we're all homeschool here and our schedule, and I work from home and my husband works from home. So we're kind of a loose schedule home. So
Nice.
it
I
is
love
not possible to post too much. I will say that real quick.
It's a good question though. Sometimes you'll get a little bit more engagement on a post, I think, if you don't get the next one up immediately after it. But there are also benefits from having new stuff for people to interact with. So, you know, do what works for you.
Yeah.
Okay, I think our people at least are ready to go to bed. Thank you so much, Ashley, for putting this together, for coming out. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Night.